My name is Alexandra Price. I'm 28 years old, and the story I'm about to tell isn't full of blood or police sirens, but it still shattered something in me that I don't think can ever be rebuilt the same way again. A week ago, my parents showed up at my door. They said they wanted to make things right. They said it was time for me to come home. I didn't hug them. I didn't even invite them in. Because when people throw you away once, really throw you away, your body remembers. Your heart remembers. And even if your mind tries to play polite, some deeper part of you whispers, don't. Don't step back into the fire. But to understand why I kept my distance, you have to go back to the night my family decided I was guilty without proof. It was Thanksgiving, 1 year ago. Growing up, Thanksgiving used to feel like the one day my family got it right. The house would smell like turkey and butter and cinnamon. My mom would hum while she cooked. My dad would pretend to be annoyed while secretly tasting everything off the spoon, and the dining table would be crowded with relatives talking over each other like their voices were competing for warmth. As a kid, I loved that noise, because for a few hours it felt like I belonged. But belonging is a fragile thing when you're the child no one expects much from. My younger brother, Sebastian, was always the bright star in our house. He wasn't just smart, he was magnetic. Teachers adored him. Relatives bragged about him. My parents lit up when he walked into a room like someone turned the lights on. And me, I was fine. That's the word people use when they don't know what else to say. I wasn't a problem child. I wasn't rebellious. I didn't scream for attention. I just learned early that if I stayed quiet, I'd hurt less. I still remember one moment, small, harmless on paper, that cracked something inside me. I was 10. It was Mother's Day. I got up early, made my mom breakfast, and carried the tray to her room like I was delivering proof that I mattered. I was proud. My hands were shaking because I didn't want to spill anything. She smiled, patted my head, thanked me, and set the tray aside. 10 minutes later, Sebastian ran in with a handmade card, bright colors, crooked letters. Mom burst into tears, like he'd placed the moon in her hands. She hugged him tight and whispered, "You are the best thing that ever happened to me." I stood there in the doorway with my tray cooling in my hands. No one meant to hurt me, but that's how it always was. The pain was quiet, accidental, constant. So by the time we were adults, the roles were already carved into stone. Sebastian was the golden child, and I was the person who helped set the table. That Thanksgiving, it was at my parents' house like always. Same warm lighting, same familiar furniture, same family photos on the wall, most of them featuring Sebastian in some achievement pose, grin wide, arm around mom or dad like the world was his. I arrived early to help, not because anyone asked me to, because that's what I did. I tried to keep peace alive with my hands since I couldn't do it with my place in their hearts. I wiped down counters. I brought chairs up from the basement. I folded napkins. I carried trays back and forth while relatives arrived with wine bottles and loud laughter. And the whole time, a quiet thought sat in the back of my skull like a dull stone. If I stop being useful, will anyone notice I'm here at all? Sebastian arrived last. He always did, like the main character entering late on purpose. He walked in wearing a crisp jacket, hair styled, smiling like he belonged in a commercial. At his side was his girlfriend, Lena, beautiful, polished, the kind of woman who made you straighten your spine without realizing it. Everyone turned toward them. My mom's face lit up so fast it almost hurt to see. "There he is," she said, like she'd been waiting all day for oxygen. Lena held a small gift box. "Oh," she said sweetly, "this is for Sebastian. I wanted him to open it with everyone." They didn't even wait until dinner. My relatives gathered around like it was a performance. Sebastian sat on the couch, opened the box slowly, letting the suspense stretch out. Inside was a luxury watch, the kind that glinted under warm light like it knew it was expensive. People gasped. My aunt actually pressed a hand to her chest. Sebastian laughed, proud and pleased, and Lena leaned in to kiss his cheek. My dad whistled. "That's a real gift." My mom beamed at Lena, like she'd already decided she was the daughter she always wanted. I stood by the dining table, quietly placing a bottle of wine down. No one looked at me, not even once. Dinner went on the way. Dinner always does. Clinking glasses, loud stories, too much food. I served plates. I refilled drinks. I smiled at the right times. And I told myself it was okay. I told myself I didn't need to be the center. I just needed to be part of the picture. After dinner, people drifted into the living room to chat. My mom brought out dessert. My dad and I started clearing dishes and stacking plates. Sebastian wandered off for a moment, said he was going to wash his hands. The watch was on him then. I noticed because it was hard not to notice. It flashed every time he moved his wrist, like a little reminder of where love in our family got invested. A few minutes later, Sebastian came back into the living room, and the second I saw his face, my stomach tightened. His eyes were wide, his mouth was half open, like he'd forgotten how to breathe. "The watch," he said. The room quieted. "What?" my mom asked, laughing like she thought it was a joke. "It's gone," Sebastian said louder. "The watch is gone." Silence hit like someone dropped a heavy blanket over the entire house. My mom blinked rapidly. "Where did you leave it?" "On the table," Sebastian said. He pointed toward the dining area. "Right there. I took it off when I went to wash my hands." People looked around. Someone stood up to check the floor. Another person lifted a napkin like a watch might be hiding under fabric. My heart started pounding for no reason. Then Sebastian turned his head slowly, and his eyes landed on me. "You were clearing the table," he said. "It wasn't a question. It was a setup." I frowned. "Yeah, but I didn't touch your watch." Sebastian's expression tightened. "Are you sure?" My mouth went dry. "Of course I'm sure." He crossed his arms, voice shifting colder. "I'm not saying you did it on purpose, but if you grabbed it by accident, just say so." The room felt like it tilted. I looked at my parents, my mom first, then my dad, waiting for them to shut this down. Waiting for either of them to say, "Don't be ridiculous, Alexandra wouldn't do that." But my mom's lips pressed into a thin line. And my dad didn't even look surprised. That's what hurt the most. Not Sebastian accusing me, but the fact that my parents' faces said, "This makes sense." I swallowed hard. "You think I stole it?" Sebastian didn't hesitate. "You were the only one near the table." My chest tightened, like something invisible was squeezing the air out of me. I tried to keep my voice steady. "I'm your sister." The words sounded weak in the room, like they didn't carry any authority here. No one spoke. And in that silence, I felt it. The old role sliding back onto me like a collar. The invisible child. The convenient suspect. The one it's easiest to blame. I turned away and walked toward the hallway, needing space, needing air, needing anything that wasn't their eyes on me. I barely made it to my bedroom door before I heard it. A loud, violent knock. Not polite, not patient. Angry. "Alexandra!" My father's voice thundered through the door. "Come out. Now." I froze with my hand on the doorknob. Because somehow, deep down, I already knew. This wasn't going to end with them finding the watch. This was going to end with them finding a reason. And I was the reason they'd chosen. I opened the door. My father stood there with his jaw clenched, shoulders stiff, like he'd already decided what kind of man he needed to be in this moment. My mother hovered just behind him, hands twisted together, lips pressed tight. And across the hall, leaning against the wall like she belonged there, stood Sebastian, arms crossed, eyes distant, already convinced. "Living room," my dad said. "We need to talk." Not "we need to understand," not "let's slow down," just "we need to talk." I followed them without a word. The house smelled the same, roasted turkey, sweet potatoes, wine, but the warmth had drained out of it. The dining table was still cluttered with plates and half-empty glasses, like the evidence of a life that had existed an hour ago and now didn't matter. My dad stayed standing. My mom sat near the fireplace, posture rigid. Sebastian didn't even look at me. I sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded so tightly in my lap, my fingers ached. Mom spoke first, her voice shaky but controlled. "Sebastian's watch still hasn't turned up." "I know," I said quietly, but I didn't take it. Sebastian exhaled sharply through his nose. "You were the only one near the table." I turned toward him. "That doesn't mean anything." "It means opportunity," he replied, flat and certain. My dad finally spoke. "Alexandra, your mother and I are aware you've been under some financial pressure lately." There it was, the weapon they always reached for when they needed a reason. I felt heat rush to my face. "So now you think I stole from my own brother because I'm struggling?" No one answered. Silence again. The kind that doesn't pause, it judges. My mom leaned forward, hands clasped. "If you picked it up by accident, or even if you panicked, just tell us. We won't be angry." I stared at her, disbelief flooding my chest. "You're asking me to confess to something I didn't do." She didn't deny it. My voice cracked, sharper now. "I didn't touch the watch. I didn't even look at it." Sebastian finally turned to face me fully. "Then where is it, Alexandra? Watches don't just disappear." "So in your mind," I said slowly, "I'm the only possible answer." He nodded once. "Yes." That single word felt heavier than any insult. My dad rubbed his temple like I was giving him a headache. "We can't let this get out. Sebastian's building his reputation. This kind of thing would reflect badly on all of us." I laughed, short, hollow. "Right, because this is about optics." My mom avoided my eyes. "We think it's best if you leave the house for a while." I stood up so fast the coffee table rattled. "What?" "Just temporarily," she added quickly. until this is cleared up. My chest burned. You're kicking me out. No, my dad said firmly. We're asking you to remove yourself. Because Sebastian accused me. Because we don't know what happened, he replied, and somehow made that sound reasonable. My voice rose despite myself. You've already decided what happened. You just don't want to say it out loud. Sebastian stepped closer, voice low, almost calm. If you didn't take it, you wouldn't be this defensive. I stared at him, my hands shaking. You're unbelievable. And suddenly, years of swallowed words pushed their way up. You've always done this, I said, turning to my parents. Whatever Sebastian says becomes the truth. Whatever he needs becomes urgent. And me, I'm always the problem to manage. That's not fair, my mom whispered. Isn't it? I shot back. When have you ever believed me first? My dad's jaw tightened. Watch your tone. I laughed again, bitter this time. There it is. That's all you care about. Respect, silence, not truth. Sebastian crossed his arms tighter. Stop making this dramatic. I felt something in me snap, clean and final. You know what? I said, voice steady now. I get it. I'm the convenient suspect. The one you can lose without consequences. My dad's face reddened. That's enough. I looked him straight in the eye. A real father doesn't throw his daughter out because her brother pointed a finger, unless he never really saw her as his in the first place. The room froze. For a split second, no one breathed. Then my father exploded. Get out of my house! The words slammed into me like a door. You're ungrateful, disrespectful, he continued, voice rising. Get out and don't come back. I stood there, heart pounding, strangely calm. Fine, I said. My mom rushed forward. Alexandra, don't make this worse. Worse? I asked softly. You already chose. No one stopped me. I walked upstairs, every step heavier than the last. My room was dark, quiet, untouched, like it hadn't yet realized it was about to stop being mine. I packed fast. Clothes, my notebook, the old scratched silver watch my dad gave me when I turned 10. The irony almost made me choke. I zipped the duffel bag, slung it over my shoulder, and took one last look around. This room had held my childhood, but it had never protected me. I walked out into the cold night, wind slicing through my jacket, streetlights casting long yellow shadows on wet pavement. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and scrolled until I found the one name that still felt safe. Ryan. Hey, he answered, instantly alert. What's wrong? I swallowed hard. I need help. Can I crash at your place? There was no hesitation. Yeah, come over. And as I walked into the night carrying everything I owned in one bag, I realized something terrifying and freeing at the same time. I wasn't leaving my family. They had already left me. Ryan didn't ask questions when I showed up at his apartment that night. He just opened the door, stepped aside, and said, You're safe here. Those 4 words nearly broke me. His place was small. Too small for 2 adults, honestly. An old couch with a sagging cushion, mismatched mugs in the kitchen, laundry piled in a corner like it had given up trying to look respectable. But the air was calm. No accusations, no judgment hanging in it. I dropped my duffel bag by the couch and sat down slowly, like if I moved too fast, everything that had happened would crash down on me all at once. Ryan busied himself in the kitchen, deliberately giving me space. That kindness, the kind that doesn't pry, was something my family had never mastered. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face twisted with anger. My mother's silence, Sebastian's certainty. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. Because when you don't have a safety net, you don't get the luxury of falling apart. I woke up early, folded the blanket I'd used on the couch, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes looked older, harder. Ryan had already left for work. On the table, he'd left a sticky note. Coffee's in the kitchen. Don't worry about anything. I held the warm mug in my hands longer than necessary, letting the heat remind me that I was still real. That day, I worked harder than I ever had. I moved faster, took extra tasks, stayed quiet. I needed the distraction. I needed the money. And more than anything, I needed to prove to myself, not to them, that I could survive this. During my break, I scrolled through rental listings. Most of them were grim, tiny rooms with peeling paint, shared bathrooms, prices that laughed in the face of my budget. But I saved them anyway. Because hope, at that point, didn't need to be pretty. It just needed to exist. 2 days later, I found a place. A small apartment in the southern edge of Brooklyn. 3rd floor of an old building that smelled like damp concrete and forgotten promises, but inside, it was clean, quiet. Sunlight filtered through narrow windows and landed on worn wooden floors that felt solid under my feet. The rent was absurdly low, almost suspicious. I didn't ask too many questions. I signed the lease with hands that trembled, not from fear, but from relief. When I told Ryan I'd found a place, he studied me for a moment, then nodded. "I knew you'd figure it out," he said. "Still gonna miss you, though." I smiled. "I already owe you too much." He grabbed a cardboard box from the closet, then helped me pack. "That'll make us even." Moving day was quiet and simple. No family, no ceremony, just two people carrying boxes up narrow stairs. We cleaned together, laughed a little, sat on the floor afterward with cheap beer and tired legs. That night, for the first time since I was thrown out, I slept deeply. Not on a couch, not in a house full of suspicion, but in a space that was mine. Weeks passed, then months, and not a single person from my family reached out. No calls, no texts, no, "Are you okay?" No, "We miss you." I told myself they were embarrassed, that they needed time, that someone, anyone, would eventually realize this had gone too far. But days turned into seasons. Winter came. I walked to work in the cold, collar pulled up, hands shoved into my pockets, breath fogging the air. Spring followed, then summer. And still nothing. I realized, slowly and painfully, that my absence had been easy for them. I was the piece they could remove without destabilizing the picture. For a long time, I waited. Every morning, I checked my phone first thing. Every vibration made my heart jump. Then one day, I stopped. I stopped waiting. I stopped imagining apologies that never came. I stopped rehearsing conversations where I'd finally be heard. I learned how to live quietly, cooking simple meals, reading by the window, saving money, learning what peace feels like when it isn't borrowed. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn my place. I already had one. I thought that was the end of it. I thought silence meant closure. I was wrong. Because just when I finally stopped missing them, they remembered me. One morning a week ago, my phone buzzed while I stood on a street corner sipping coffee. I glanced at the screen. Mom. My chest tightened. She hadn't called in over a year. I stared at the name, thumb hovering, heart pounding. Then I answered. "Alexandra," she said, her voice thin and trembling. "It's Mom." I closed my eyes. Something old and heavy stirred inside my chest. "What is it?" I asked quietly. There was a pause. Then she said the words that split my world clean in two. "They found the watch." I stood there as the city rushed around me, coffee burning my hand, blood roaring in my ears. Found. After a year. After everything. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't going to end the way they thought it would. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I stood there on the sidewalk while strangers brushed past me, their lives intact, moving forward without interruption, while my entire past pressed down on my chest like a weight I'd been carrying for a year. "Alexandra," my mother said softly through the phone. "Are you there?" "Where?" I asked finally, each word scraped out of my throat. "Was it?" There was another pause, longer this time, heavy. "In one of Sebastian's old bags," she said. "He must have packed it up without realizing after dinner. We found it while cleaning out the closet." My grip tightened around the phone. A year. A full year of exile, because no one bothered to check a bag. "I told you," I said, my voice flat. "I told all of you I didn't take it." "I know," she whispered. "We should never have doubted you. Your father, me, even Sebastian. We were wrong." Wrong. Such a small word for something that had swallowed 12 months of my life. "We want you to come home," she added quickly, like she was afraid I'd disappear if she didn't say it fast enough. "We want to make things right." I closed my eyes. For so long I'd imagined this moment. Imagined feeling relief, vindication, tears, some kind of emotional release that would finally loosen the knot in my chest. But all I felt was tired. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why it took them so long. I just said, "I need to go," and ended the call. The line went dead. I stood there long after, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. They found the watch. The truth had been there all along, quiet, ignored, inconvenient. And suddenly the past year made sense in the worst way possible. Not one of them had stopped and asked, "What if Alexandra didn't do it?" Not once. That night my phone rang again. This time it was Sebastian. I stared at his name glowing on the screen for a long moment before answering. "Alexandra," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "It's me." I didn't respond. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he continued quickly, words tumbling over each other now. "I was wrong. I should have checked my bag. I should have defended you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I leaned back against the kitchen counter, staring at the wall. "A year," I said calmly. Do you know what a year feels like when you're alone because your own family decided you weren't worth believing? He was quiet. I lost my home, I went on. I lost my family. I lost any illusion that I mattered to you. And you want to fix that with an apology? I'll do anything, he said. Anything you ask. Just please give me a chance. I let his words hang in the air. Then I said, if you really mean that, you're going to have to prove it. I will, he said instantly. I swear. I ended the call without saying goodbye. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about the girl I was when I walked out of that house with a duffel bag and nowhere to go. The version of me that still believed being patient and quiet would eventually be rewarded. She deserved better. 2 days later, I agreed to meet them. Not because I was ready to forgive, but because I was done carrying unfinished business in my chest. We chose a small cafe on the edge of the city, quiet, neutral, a place where no one had the advantage of home turf. I arrived early, ordered black coffee, sat in the corner and waited. When the door opened and I saw my parents walk in, older, thinner, hesitant, I didn't feel anger surge like I once imagined. I felt something colder, detachment. And that's when I realized something that scared me more than rage ever had. I didn't need them anymore. Stop! Continue part 5. Forgiveness without return. They sat across from me like strangers. My mother first, her coat a little too big on her now, shoulders slumped as if the past year had finally caught up with her. My father followed, hands shoved into his pockets, eyes fixed on the floor. And then Sebastian, last as always, hesitating in the doorway before taking the empty chair beside them. No one spoke at first. The cafe was quiet in that deliberate way. Soft music, low voices, the clink of cups that felt too loud in the space between us. My mother broke first. Alexandra, she said, voice trembling, thank you for coming. I nodded once, nothing more. I'm so sorry, she continued. I failed you. I should have believed you. I should have protected you. I let fear and favoritism make me weak. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt no rush to comfort her. My father cleared his throat. I was wrong, he said slowly, like each word cost him something. I acted out of anger and pride. I didn't listen. I threw my own daughter out of my house without proof. He finally looked at me then. I regret it every day. I turned to Sebastian. He swallowed hard. I doubted you. I blamed you. And I let you take the fall for my mistake. His voice cracked. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm ashamed. For a moment, I said nothing. I lifted my coffee, took a sip, set it down carefully. Then I spoke. I begged you, I said calmly. I didn't ask for special treatment. I asked to be heard. And none of you gave me that. They all lowered their eyes. I spent my whole life feeling invisible in this family, I went on. And when things went wrong, it confirmed what I'd always feared. That I was the easiest one to lose. My mother shook her head, tears spilling now. We didn't realize. You didn't want to, I replied gently, because realizing it would have meant changing something. Silence again. Then I took a breath, long, steady. I forgive you. 3 faces lifted at once, hope flickering. But, I continued before it could settle, I'm not coming home. The hope collapsed. This past year, I said, I learned how to live without a family, and I found peace I never had with you. I won't give that up to return to being the shadow. My mother reached for my hand, then stopped herself. My father nodded slowly as if accepting a verdict. Sebastian looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. I stood, pulled on my coat. I forgive you, I said one last time, but forgiveness doesn't mean access. I walked out without looking back. After that meeting, my phone exploded. Relatives, old friends, people who'd stayed silent while I was sleeping on a couch with everything I owned in a bag. You're being selfish. They're still your family. Blood is thicker than water. I didn't respond. I blocked them, one by one. Because if they truly cared, they would have called a year ago. Not now, when the truth was safe to acknowledge. I went back to my small apartment, cooked dinner, sat by the window, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty for choosing myself. So I'll ask you, the one listening, was I wrong for refusing to go back? Was I wrong for choosing peace over blood? My name is Alexandra Price, and this was my story.